Before the 1990s, they were everywhere in Wisconsin and beyond. Native Rusty Patched Bumblebees nested and foraged across 28 states and parts of Canada. Then a sudden, rapid decline. By 2017, the Rusty Patched Bumblebee had become so scarce, it was the first bee listed as a federally endangered species. In this episode, a walk deep into the Wisconsin woods for the rarest of discoveries, a nest of Rusty Patched Bumblebee queens. I'll take a look at what it's going to take to bring our bees back and meet the dedicated experts and volunteers who are working hard to save our pollinators. I'm Amy Barrilleaux, and this is State of Change from Clean Wisconsin. How do you spend a warm, sunny morning? Well, if you're one of the hundreds of volunteers, conservationists, and researchers that make up Wisconsin's Bumblebee Brigade, led by the DNR, chances are you're on the lookout for the Rusty Patched Bumblebee, trying to spot worker bees with the distinctive rust-colored patches on their backs and the bright yellow round queens. In August, all that work finally paid off when a rare nest of queens was discovered in a Milwaukee County park.
Okay, we'll do our best.
That's where I meet up with a handful of members of the Bumblebee Brigade, including Elizabeth Braatz and Jay Watson from the DNR. We hike off-trail to reach the nest in an undisclosed location.
Why not disclose where we are? Why is this something you want to kind of keep on the down low?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a really, really special thing we're about to see right now. It's a Rusty Patched Bumblebee colony or nest, and that is a federally endangered species. And we're gonna be really respectful of them. We're gonna keep our distance. But if too many people go over there and start poking around or accidentally walk over things, they could step on the bees themselves, and they could also disrupt the nest. And right, especially at this time when all of them are at the colony and they're trying to get as fat as possible for winter, we just don't want to disturb them, and we want to preserve them so that more people can see Rusty Patch in their yards in the future.
This is, I think you said, the third nest that's been found relatively recently.
Yes.
What does that mean? Does that mean that the Rusty Patch is coming back, or that maybe we just have more people looking for them?
Gosh, I hope they're coming back. All the places that these have been found have been with groups that have been working very hard to restore habitat and commit to protecting pollinators for the last several years. So it's really, really hopeful in my head to see that starting to hopefully pay off. Whether this will continue happening or whether we just got really lucky this year, it's harder to tell because we really need more data to kind of to tease apart whether this is survey effort versus the species themselves. But I hope this becomes something that becomes much more common.
Yep. We think it's really probably just more people out looking that have been educated on what to look for is really helping with finding more nests.
So how does having people out and identifying nests help overall in bringing this bee back?
Yeah, we know very little bit about their nesting requirements. So the thing we know the most about is foraging habitat. So part of their whole life cycle is their nests, and we just are trying to learn more about what their requirements are, what the surroundings of it are, the soil types, all those different aspects of the nest. So the more we learn, then we can help start to conserve those type of resources and stuff like that.
If we back up a little bit, the Rusty Patched Bumblebee was the very first bee listed as a federally endangered species. Why are these bees particularly important? I mean, I think sometimes people think about animals in the way that they can help people. So honeybees, they make honey. That makes sense. Why is this bumblebee important?
Yeah, so there are 20 species of bumblebees in Wisconsin, and they, as well as the 400 to 500 other native species of bees, are really, really valuable for pollination services that we all enjoy and use. So if you enjoy having a diverse amount of food and those strawberries and squash and blueberries and all those other good things, as well as if you just go out and enjoy living in a green world, in a blooming world, so many flowering plants that are wild and native, they have kind of adapted over thousands of years to work with these native pollinators. So the Rusty Patched Bumblebee is kind of our flagship species because they're not doing as well as they used to. They were listed as endangered because they used to be all the way out to the east coast, to the ocean, all the way to west of us as well, and now that habitat has really shrunk. So we're really trying to focus on them because they're endangered, and Wisconsin actually has, fingers crossed, we seem to be finding a decent amount of them in Wisconsin, so hopefully they can make a comeback. But it's really all of those bumblebees and pollinators that we're putting in habitat for are part of this ecosystem that we're all also reliant on.
When you found out that this nest had been found, what was your reaction?
Oh, I'm so excited. This is so amazing because there have been 3 Rusty Patched Bumblebee nests found this year alone, 2023, and that is more than half of the ones that were found in total for the past 20 years. So it's been a really good year for finding their nests, and that makes me really hopeful because we want to help protect their habitat and learn what they even are using as habitat for their nests. And we can't do that without ever finding the nests. So it's been an exciting year for data this summer.
Well, let's talk about what happened to the Rusty Patched Bumblebee and I guess a lot of other pollinators. Why are they disappearing?
Yeah, there's a lot of things stressing out pollinators in general. Habitat loss is definitely one of the biggest ones, as well as intensified agriculture, pesticides, climate change, and disease. And when you have all of those kind of adding on top of each other, it's just a lot to stress out these pollinators and bees. The 3 nests were all found on Bumblebee Brigade volunteers' properties who had been working on habitat for the past couple years. So there's plants that you can put in. There's especially native plants that bloom throughout the season. So bumblebees like us like to be fed throughout their life. And so if you provide food in the spring, the summer, and the fall, that really, really helps their life cycle. So even if some habitat is going away, if you kind of can provide habitat in government land, in public land, in private land, in gardens, and even in company land as well, all of that can make a difference on the landscape. So that's habitat loss. In terms of pesticides, yeah, reducing use in pesticides, especially systemic pesticides, can really help because of course, if you're putting poisons on the flowers and then bees are eating from them, that's pretty bad for them.
So part of the reason why, Clean Wisconsin is talking about pollinators and the Rusty Patched Bumblebee right now is because we like to see solar developments that have pollinator habitat planted in and around the panels. A lot of times that solar is replacing kind of like conventional agriculture, corn and soybeans. How important is it, if we're replacing that agriculture with something else, that we make sure that pollinators are taken care of in that moment?
I think that's a kind of key time that we have the opportunity to change the landscape, because if something's already in place, it can be really hard and maybe not always worth it monetarily wise to change. But if you're already changing it, that's your chance to do something new and to put in some of those plants that'll provide habitat along the margins. And it doesn't even have to be always the entire area, and it doesn't have to be, not everything has to be a restored DNR prairie. We're not asking that. When I was working on solar plants previously, we were still kind of testing it out. That was in Florida, mind you. But we found that putting in habitat even along the edge of the solar plant, that was really, really helpful. And we were seeing amazing diversity of insects come back to the site as soon as we started planting some around it. And then we were kind of slowly getting in under the panels. I'm not sure how the solar industry in Wisconsin is doing, mind you, but that was what I saw in Florida.
Solar panels are already being managed to keep out woody vegetation, so it's really just getting that pollinator mix of plants established, because a lot of those sites are 30 years going to be 30 years, or those are easements that they have to keep those panels on, so it's a great stable resource. Yes, if you put in the, at the beginning, put in a good mix of flowers that flower throughout the growing season, it provides a great resource for the bumblebees and other pollinators.
Do you think that we'll get to a point where this was just kind of a blip when we weren't thinking enough about pollinators, and now that we've made this discovery that they can be so delicate parts of the ecosystem, that that we'll have a recovery?
Yeah, so the question was, do we believe in the future of pollinators here in Wisconsin? And I think I get the answer. I think I get that answer every day when I open Bumblebee Brigade and I see people's photos and their hopes and the things that they're seeing. I think it's really a question of, do we believe in the people of Wisconsin and having this multi-use landscape? Because the DNR cannot do this alone. We just don't have enough land, and people want that land for other things too. But I think we can coexist with these animals. I certainly hope so, and we're going to keep spreading the word on how to do that. That everyone can do it, whether you own land or don't. For example, the place that we're going to right now is a reasonably densely populated county. But the people who manage this land rely on volunteers and all sorts of other passionate individuals to make this possible. So I think it's possible.
After a slow-going trek through thick woods and plenty of poison ivy, we reached the nest, not in a tree or a bed of flowers, but on the ground, a small hole in the wet soil hidden in brush and fallen leaves.
So bumblebees have annual colonies. It's good to be a queen. What we're going to be seeing right now, hopefully, is a lot of new queens for next year. That's the sign of whether a colony was successful. But they're starting to just go out and bumble around and have their legs and their wings under them. And sometimes they're not always flying around. Sometimes they're just kind of walking around the ground. So we're going to be really careful about stepping on them.
You can come around and take a look right over here. This is activity that we've seen. Maybe Jay can offer some insight, but I've seen them where maybe they'll just perch at the entrance of a nest. Perhaps it's guarding behavior, or they might just be checking out their new surroundings.
I'm going to say I don't know where the nest entrance is here.
So right where his camera is pointed at, and it's very small. Oh, see, I've got a little queen right here on the ground. So I'm going to be really careful to avoid her. But then right here, this is the nest entrance. It's maybe 2 centimeters or less long, and you see that little queen.
That's one of our smaller openings we've seen.
Yeah, I am shocked. It has to be half the size of the last one.
A lot of times they use abandoned rodent burrows, which that still could be one, but that's a lot of times we see them like a couple inches wide, 3-4 inches wide.
I was wondering if they'd use crayfish burrows.
Could be. That's a great.
That'd be the first crayfish.
Right, that would be
that was the case. That'd be
new
cool.
association.
So this queen right here looks like it's not moving, or what is the...
She's just hanging out.
Yeah, so there's different. So a lot of times when they first emerge, this is all things that we think. We don't exactly know, right? We're still learning. And they come out, they're produced underground. It's all dark. So they're coming out to this bright world. And really, they're just getting used to their bodies. Testing out their wings, learning about their environment, their surroundings around them. So a lot of times they sit there for a while and kind of just take everything in. We'll see them sometimes almost similar to, you could compare it to like a butterfly. When they eclose, their wings need to get strengthened. They'll be flapping their wings around, kind of you'll hear them buzzing. And so they're just getting their wings strengthened up before they can do their first flight. That's all the kind of stuff going on when they first emerge.
Oh, I see one.
And then you'll see them come back and forth like that to the nest. And though we knew at the other site we saw, one was yellower, so we could kind of pick her out and follow her. She'd go make a flight 5 minutes away and then come back. So they do a lot of that kind of stuff. There's another one. That one's actually really yellow right there coming in.
Hallie Mincer, restoration ecologist with Milwaukee County Parks, discovered the nest. It's the second nest she's discovered in the last 3 years.
So, I guess what does it take to find one of these nests?
From my experience, it takes some dumb luck. Really just being out on the landscape a lot. I'm really fortunate because I'm out in the field 90+% of the time for my job in a lot of really nice natural areas within Milwaukee County parks. And I've been managing the bumblebee monitoring program for Milwaukee County parks for the last 4 years now, and we follow the protocol for the Bumblebee Brigade, of course. So just having lots of experience working with bumblebees and just having a really big passion for them, I think, is what's really led me to be able to discover this nest of the Rusty Patched Bumblebee in 2023, and then the other nest back in 2020. So really just a confluence of really good luck and all that I've learned from the program to be able to recognize these bees, be able to hear the queens when they're flying around really loudly.
So what we've been looking at is a nest of new queens coming out of the ground, you know, their first kind of moments above ground. When you see that, how does it make you feel?
I just get unbelievably happy. Even when I see a bee, just a bumblebee, I get ecstatic about it. I didn't remember saying it, but I had my coworkers with me, and so my coworker Emily, we both discovered the nest together, and apparently what I said is, "Ooh, a bee, let's be friends," something along that line. So the fact that it ended up being a nest, and not just any nest, but of this federally endangered species, is really, I'm breathless. I've been out here. Luckily, my boss has given me some time to come out here and observe the nest and study it, but I've come out on my free time on the weekends already, so just being able to, I really can't put it into words. It's an amazing experience. I thought it was a once-in-a-lifetime one, but apparently I lucked out and got to do it twice.
So while we're sitting here talking, we're watching these queens kind of buzz around the area. There's one right there. How rare, too. How rare is that?
Just to be able to see these queens, you have to be at the right time of year, so you're only really going to see the queens in early spring when they emerge from their overwintering, and then this time of year when they're new, queens emerging from the nest as they're going to mate and then overwinter. So there's really only a set number of weeks, so it is phenomenal to be able to see them, and just seeing one, as I already said, really makes you very ecstatic. So seeing all of these together and seeing them not just on flowers, which is where all of us are really seeing bees most of the time, seeing them in their nest environment and taking their very first flights of their lives is absolutely unbelievable.
When you think about the future of these bees and really all the pollinators in Wisconsin, what brings you hope?
Seeing all of the volunteers, I really have to go ahead and say that, just like Elizabeth was saying, all of the work that these volunteers do is absolutely phenomenal. This is really what we need, because we need this baseline data. We've been gathering that for years now with the Bumblebee Brigade, thanks to the DNR folks leading that program, but then we are gathering this information on nesting habits of not just this species, but others, so that we can use all of this data to help bumblebees and pollinators more in general. So I really think that there is a bright outlook for these pollinators as everybody works together, as the public begins to become more aware of the issues that they face and what they can help to do for these threatened pollinators in their own lives and in their own gardens.
So we're doing 10-minute observation counts to monitor.
The brigade spends about an hour at the nest collecting valuable data they hope will lead to more discoveries and better ways to protect nesting habitat.
So how exciting is it for you to see those bees coming in and out?
Oh, it warms my heart. It makes me. It's awesome. It's so magical. It's so amazing. We get so used to just seeing these plump little creatures on our flowers, and you forget that there's a whole complex life cycle that's going on around us and under us that is so important for them. So getting to see, I'm excited if I see a Rusty Patched Bumblebee worker during a survey where I'm going out for hours and looking for bees, and so to see. Gosh, you've probably seen maybe 3 or 4 queens, new queens for next year. There goes another one. All right, now maybe number 5, or maybe it's the same one. That's the limitation of no mark and recapture. All in the same area, which is absolutely amazing. And this is exactly what we're hoping to see too, because this means that this colony. Oh, there's a little worker.
Yeah, that's a worker going around you there.
Don't move, Alex. It's
right near you, Alex. Yeah, so that's the hardworking little workers. They're much smaller, as you can see. They've got a little rusty patch, and
yeah, that one was fast.
Well,
I don't know where it went.
I would just add, there's no guarantee they get predated on a lot, so they can start a nest or they have failure.
Exactly.
So it's awesome to see them make it to where
Yes.
you know they're producing new reproductive queens. Here comes another one out.
Oh, that was fast.
We had a site in La Crosse, bunch of activity, never produced any reproductive females. So really, for the future generation, it didn't contribute to the next year's generation. So that happens a lot. There's a lot of failure, so it's awesome to see when there's successful nests too.
And that's some of the things that a lot of researchers are trying to look into. Okay, what makes a nest successful? How can we get more nests to be successful? How do we provide habitat for their entire life cycle?
For photos and videos of the nest, bees, and more information about how you can protect pollinators, visit cleanwisconsin.org. I'm Amy Barrilleaux, and you've been listening to State of Change, powered by Clean Wisconsin.